The basic requirement is that you need to have spent at least 730 days over the last 5 years in Canada. My photo, I was getting this warning under my photo that my photo does not meet the requirements. So basically, I combined all these documents and I got 2 PDFs, one for my combined bank statement for the last. What's up YouTube, it's Shivansh here. I hope you all are doing well. If this is the first time that you're watching my video, then welcome. My name is Shivansh and I've been living in Canada for the last 10 years. And I recently got my Canadian PR card renewed because it was about to get expired. And I'm sure a lot of you guys might be in a similar situation where your PR card is about to get expired and maybe you're not eligible for your Canadian citizenship yet, or maybe you don't want to get your Canadian citizenship for whatever reason. And that's why I decided to make this step-by-step guide for you so that you can also follow along and follow this process and submit your application for renewing your Canadian PR card. The basic requirement for renewing your PR card is that you need to have spent at least 730 days over the last 5 years in Canada. And even though there is documentation available online, but it can get quite confusing because it's just too much to read through. So that's why this video will be extremely useful for you. And also make sure to watch this video till the very end, because along the way I've also spoken about some of the important points or specific parts of the application process which were personally very confusing for me. They might be confusing for you as well. So hopefully you'll also get an idea on what to do in those situations. But before we begin this video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because your support is extremely important for the growth of this channel. And if you like and share this video, then that will help my channel in a big way. And with that being said, let's get into my laptop and start with this step-by-step guide on how to renew your Canadian PR card. So the very first thing you need to do is go to Google and search for Canada PR Card Renewal, and then you need to click on this first link over here, and this website has everything you need to know about renewing your PR card. For example, on the right side, you can see that the processing time right now is 33 days for renewing or replacing your PR card, and for getting a new PR card is 20 days. Now this processing time depends on a variety of factors and it can change depending on when you choose to apply, but whatever the average time at that point in time will be, you'll get it over here. And the fee for renewing your PR card is not loading for some reason, but if you click on the link over here, it'll take you to this page, and if you scroll down on this page, if you go to permanent resident cards, you'll see that the fee is $50. And if you come back to this page and scroll down, you'll see some more important pieces of information. For example, if you want to leave Canada, then you should make sure that your PR card is valid. And if your PR card is about to expire and you want to travel, then you should always try to renew your PR card before leaving Canada. And for some reason, if there's an emergency and you need to get your application processed urgently, then you can click on this link over here and it'll give you all the conditions under which you can become eligible for urgent processing. And even if you do qualify for urgent processing of your application, they don't guarantee that you'll get your PR card on time, so make sure to give it some time before you actually travel. And in the absolute worst case where you had to travel outside of Canada on an expired PR card, or you did not have a PR card at the time of returning back to Canada, then you have to apply for a PRTD or a permanent resident travel document, and this document is absolutely necessary to re-enter Canada without a valid PR card. And there's a completely different process for applying for a PRTD, and you can click on the link over here if you're interested. But the caveat is that it might take longer than normal to process your PRTD application, and this could delay your return to Canada. So make sure to keep all these factors in mind if you're planning to travel outside of Canada on an expired PR card. Alright, so now let's move on to the next section, which is who can apply. So this gives you a brief overview of the eligibility criteria for getting a new PR card. So you have to be a permanent resident and you have to submit your application in Canada. And these are some of the conditions under which you might be eligible to apply for a PR card. And in case you applied for a PR card renewal but you did not hear back from the government of Canada for 6 weeks longer than the normal processing time, then you can submit a solemn declaration instead. Or if your PR card was stolen, lost, or destroyed, but you don't want to reapply for a new one right now, in that case as well, you should submit a solemn declaration. Alright, so now let's move on to how to apply, and this is the most important section of this website. Now on this page, you'll see that you have to apply for your permanent resident card through the permanent residence portal, and this is the link to get to the permanent residence portal. So if you click on this link over here, it'll take you to the main website where you will first have to create your account, then create your application for PR card renewal, and then attach all the required documents, and then finally submit your application. So all that will be done through this portal. So let's quickly start by creating an account on this portal. So all you need to do is scroll down and click on create an account, and then you can just enter your email address and your password. You can just create a password based on these requirements. And then once you've done that, you just need to read through and accept the terms of use and privacy policy, and then you should be able to create your account. But for some reason, if you already have an account on this portal, then you don't need to create it again. You just need to enter your username or email address and password, and then you'll be able to sign in. As you can see, under my applications, I already have a permanent resident card renewal application that was submitted back in August of 2024, and henceforth I got my PR card renewed. But for you, if this is the first time that you've created your account, then this section will be empty and you just need to click on create new application. On this page, you select what type of program you're applying for, so PR card renewal, and what is your situation right now? Are you in Canada or outside of Canada? So in case you're outside of Canada, the process might be a bit different, but in this case, I'm just going to select I'm in Canada. And then you can read through this disclaimer, and once you've read through it, check on this and click on apply for a PR card. So as you can see that the status was success, your application was successfully started. So at this point, you have started your process of applying for a PR card renewal. And once again, they remind you that these are the different conditions that make you eligible for applying for a permanent residence card. So make sure to read through that. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see that there are a bunch of important links over here. So the first one is eligibility criteria. I think we've already gone through that. In case you want to read further, then make sure to click on that and read through the whole page. Otherwise, move on to the second point, which is the instruction guide. Now, if you click on this link over here, it'll take you to this page. Now, this instruction guide is the part which is the most confusing, in my opinion. It took me forever to actually go through this whole instruction guide and make sense of it all and just filter out what all is actually relevant for me and then only focus on those parts. But overall, this guide is actually pretty in depth. It contains all the information about stuff you need to know before you apply, what all documents you need to gather, how to fill out the application form, how to pay the fees, and submitting your application. So it is a pretty in-depth guide, and I would highly recommend you to actually go through that whole guide. But at the same time, I will obviously go through the most important sections of this guide with you in this video step by step so that you don't miss any of the important instructions. But now let's go back to this page and check out the next link. So the next link over here is a document checklist. As the name suggests, this is a checklist for all the things that are required in order for you to submit a complete application package. We'll come back to this once we've done most of the work on the portal itself. So if you scroll down on this portal over here, you'll see that there's a section for uploading proof if the permanent resident card request is urgent. Once again, if you do have an urgent situation, if it's an emergency or something, then you can submit an urgent request, and then you need to provide some additional details such as the reason and all. But in this case, we're not going to go through that, and we'll just go to the next section, which is the application forms. If you scroll down, you'll see that there's a section for application forms, and out of all these forms, the two most important forms are this one, the first one, IMM 5444, which is basically the application for renewing your permanent resident card. And then the second one is the checklist that we've briefly went over. So that checklist also needs to be uploaded. And then there is this IMM 5476. This one is used if you need somebody else to represent you. But in case of most people, you don't have to submit this. And same thing for all these other forms listed over here. It won't apply to most people, but depending on your situation, these might be applicable. For example, if you want to release your personal information to someone, then you do have to submit this form as well. Or if any of these other ones are applicable to you, then you do have to fill out all these ones as well. Now let's quickly jump into how to fill out this application form IMM 5444. So click on start. On this page, select what your situation is. For me, it's just renewing your PR card, so just click on that. And then you need to enter your UCI number, which is the unique client identifier, and you'll find this on your old PR card. So if you have your old PR card, then you'll see this number on there. Make sure to enter this as it is. And then your language of correspondence, just select English. Enter the date that you became a permanent resident of Canada, so enter the actual date, and then specify the port of entry or the city where you became a permanent resident. So in my case, I'll just enter Hamilton, and then the province is Ontario. But this depends on your situation, so where exactly did you become a permanent resident in Canada, or what was your port of entry at the time of submitting your COPR. And then you need to enter some of your personal details, your given name, your family name or surname. And then if there was a name change, or if you go by a different name, then you can enter that over here. And then what are your physical characteristics? So your gender, eye color, your height, your date of birth, your country of birth, and then what all countries or territories you hold citizenship of. So in my case, I'm a citizen of India, so I'm just going to enter India. And then you need to enter your residential address in Canada. Make sure that this address is correct. And then you can also enter your mailing address if it is different from your residential address. So since we are in Canada, I'm just going to select cellular, country code is 1, and the phone number is your phone number. And next section is, do you want IRCC to contact you at the email address that you used for creating this account? So I'm just going to select yes, enter your current marital status, and then you can save and continue on to the next page. So in this next section, you need to provide your immigration history. So make sure to answer all these questions correctly. So have you ever been issued a removal order from Canada? No. Has immigration officer ever issued you an admissibility report? No. Have you ever lost your status as a PR of Canada? Not in my case. And I've also never submitted an appeal to the Immigration Appeal Division, so that's also a no. The confusing bit over here was this section. So have you ever been issued any of the following documents, a travel document or a PR travel document? So the PR travel document is the PRTD that we talked about initially. In my case, I never got a PRTD. So in this question, for most people, it will be a no, but depending on your situation, it might be a yes as well. So a PR travel document is basically a PRTD. So if you have been outside of Canada in the past and you were issued a PRTD, then you have to check this option and then you have to provide some explanation. Similarly, if you were ever issued a travel document, and a travel document in this case, based on my research, does not really mean a visitor visa or a study permit or anything of that sort. It's basically a different type of document that is used to travel to Canada. And if you were issued a travel document in the past, then you can enter that information over here. But in my case, I did not choose any of these, even though I was a student once. I had a PR card earlier. I also had a work permit before that. So I just did not check any of these options and I just clicked on save and continue. Alright, so in this section, you have to enter your personal history. So the first section is your address history inside and outside of Canada. So basically, you need to list all your addresses for the past 5 years, or if you became a permanent resident of Canada less than 5 years ago, then your address history since becoming a permanent resident. For example, I entered this address over here, and then you need to click on the plus button, and then you can click on save table. If you don't click on this plus button, the address will actually not get added. So make sure to click on that and then click on save table in order to save your entries to this table. Similarly, in your work and educational history section, you need to provide all the places that you've worked at or any studies that you've done in the past 5 years. And in case you did not work or study during any of those phases, then you need to enter the activity that you did in the activity column. So it could be volunteering, being a homemaker, retired, unemployed, etc. But please make sure to not leave any gaps in between and enter all the activities that you were involved in during that 5-year window. And similarly, as you fill out this table, make sure to click on this plus button and then click save table in order to save your entries. Now this next section is also very important. So this one is about residency obligations. So you need to account for the time that you spent outside of Canada, and you need to provide the government of Canada with the information on activities that you were doing outside of Canada. So have you traveled or lived outside of Canada in the last 5 years? Since in my case, I did travel to India a few times, so I'm just going to select yes. Have you been employed on a full-time basis by a Canadian business outside of Canada or in the federal public administration? So in my case, I was not working for a Canadian business outside of Canada, even though I was employed full-time in Canada by a Canadian company, but I was not working outside of Canada for that company. So I was only visiting India, visiting my family in India, and traveling to these other countries that I've been to. I was never actually working for a Canadian company or for the federal public administration or any of these things while I was out of Canada. So I'm just going to select no here, but it depends on your situation. So please make sure to enter accordingly. And even this question was not applicable to me, so I'm just going to select no. And same thing for question 5.4. Make sure to read through this as well. Now in this section, you need to list out the time you spent outside of Canada since the time you became a permanent resident or since 5 years ago. You can see that the from and to dates are already added by default based on the prior information that I submitted in this form, and depending on your personal information, these dates will look different for you. So in this section, you need to list out your absences from Canada from the most recent one to the oldest one, and you also need to include a reason for your absence in the table below. Now, one thing that can be confusing over here is the reason for absence section, and you can see that in the drop down there are A, B, C or other categories. For most people, you'll fall in the other category, but you need to look at this description over here to make sure that you're not selecting something that's incorrect. So the reason for your absence must be one of the following options. Reason number A is that you've been employed on a full-time basis by a Canadian business or a federal business administration or public service of a province. So as I mentioned earlier, if you've been working for a Canadian business outside of Canada for official purposes, in that case, you need to select A. And then based on certain other criteria, you might fall into categories B or C. But for most people, you will fall in the other category, and you need to select this one if you were just vacationing or visiting family, or maybe you were studying outside of Canada, or even if you were working for a company outside of Canada that was not a Canadian business, or for the government of Canada outside of Canada. So make sure to select this based on the category that your trip falls into. So you can see that over here my total is 43 days. So these are the number of days that I was actually outside of Canada. And if you scroll down, you'll see that it says that if your total time spent outside of Canada is less than 1095 days, then you appear to meet the residency requirements. And in only those cases, you're eligible to apply for a PR card renewal. So make sure to enter all your absences from Canada in this table, and make sure that the total number of days that you were outside of Canada is not more than 1095, because if it is equal to 1095 days or more, then in that case, you may not meet the residency requirements and you may not be eligible to renew your Canadian PR card. But if for some reason, in the absolute worst case, you are not able to meet the residency requirements and you were outside of Canada for 1095 days or more, and if you still want to keep your Canadian PR status and you want to get your PR card renewed, then you will have to justify your retention of your PR status. And for that, you'll have to provide some documentation. You'll have to provide a proper letter explaining your situation, exactly what happened, why you were not able to meet the residency requirements, etc., etc. But if you are in this situation, then I would highly recommend you to reach out to an official Canadian immigration consultant, so that your application for PR status renewal has a higher probability of getting accepted and approved. So at this point, it will take you to the main page of your application, and you have successfully completed your application for permanent resident card, and you'll see that the status has changed to ready to submit. So basically, from the Government of Canada side, your application form is complete and it is ready to be submitted. But in case you think that there are any discrepancies, or if you made any mistakes and you want to correct them, then you can click on the edit button over here, and it'll take you back to the same flow, and you can update any of the entries that you've added, and you should be able to correct your mistakes as well. Now, before moving on to the checklist part, let's move on to the next section, because the checklist contains all these other things that you have to submit, and the checklist should be the last thing that you should upload once you've made sure that you've actually uploaded every single document that was required for your PR card application. So now moving on to the photos section. Now this is also very important. You have to follow the requirements that the Government of Canada, the IRCC, has listed in this photo requirements document. So click on that photo requirements document. You'll see that there are some photo specifications that you need to follow. So these are pretty standard specifications, and most photographers here in Canada would already know of these specifications. But I would highly recommend you to still click on this link over here and then download this document and take it to your photographer, so that they also know exactly what all is needed for your permanent resident card application. And since we're submitting this application online, you'll have to upload the front and the back of your picture separately. So for example, on the front side, you can see that it'll have your face with these requirements. And then on the back of your photo, you'll have the name and date of birth of the person in the photo, along with the date that the photo was taken on and the name and address of the photo studio. So make sure to include all these things in your picture before you upload them. So once you have your digital photographs, you can just click on add or edit button. And then on this page, you can, once again, they'll list all the specifications. And at the very bottom, you can upload your photo. So for the type of photo, you can specify whether your photo was taken by a professional photographer and received in a digital format. So for example, sometimes you receive a digital copy of your photo. In that case, you can select this first option over here. But in case you received an actual physical photo from your photographer and then you later scanned that photo to create a digital copy of it, then you can select the second option over here, and then you can click on upload photo and upload that picture. And one thing I want to point out here is that when I was going through this process, I actually selected the second option, which was photo taken by a professional photographer, but then I scanned the photo. For some reason, when I was uploading my photo, I was getting this warning under my photo that my photo does not meet the requirements. The brightness was not correct. It was either too bright or too dark, or the background was not correct. So it's basically a generic warning. It doesn't actually tell you what is wrong with your picture. So I tried to resize my picture or do a bunch of things so that this warning goes away, but unfortunately I could not get it to go away, so I just went ahead and submitted this picture, and thankfully it actually got approved. But I'm just letting you know in case you run into such a situation. So once your photos are uploaded, your front and back of your photos are uploaded, you'll see that you'll see the status change over here. It'll probably say something like ready to submit. And then you can move on to the next section, which is also extremely important, which is your supporting documentation. Now, this is the section where you'll have to provide all the documentation that is important for the IRCC to know that you actually fulfill the criteria of being a Canadian permanent resident. And the best way to make sure that you're not forgetting any documents, any important documents that the Government of Canada expects of you, is to actually go back to the guide or the IMM 5445, because this will list out all the important things that you need to submit. So in this guide, if you scroll down and if you click on gather documents, step 1, gather documents, you'll get to this section, and if you scroll down, you'll see all the documents that you should submit. So this is the list of documents that you need to submit. Very first one is the fee, so the copy of the receipt showing the amount paid. So this one is actually the next step on this application guide, so we'll come back to this fee part afterwards. The next item on the list is photos. You've just submitted your photos, so you should be good on this part. And then this one is very important. You need to show a proof showing that you meet the residency obligation in the past 5 years immediately before the application, and for this you should refer to Appendix A for the residency obligation. So if you click on Appendix A, you'll get to this section, and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that the supporting documents showing that you meet the residency obligation are these. So basically, you have to provide copies of 2 pieces of evidence that can show that you have met the residency in Canada in the last 5 years immediately before the application, or since becoming a PR if it's been less than 5 years. So some of these examples include employment records or pay stubs, bank statements, CRA notice of assessment for the last 5 years, some rental agreements, club memberships. So out of all these, I think the easiest ones to get are pay stubs, bank statements, and your CRA notice of assessments. So out of these ones, I personally submitted my bank documents and my notice of assessment for the last 5 years because I thought these were the easiest to get. So essentially what I did was that I logged into my CRA account or my Canada Revenue Agency account, and I downloaded my notice of assessment for the last 5 years. And once I got those 5 documents, I combined all of them into one single PDF, with the most recent one being the first one in that combined PDF. And I did a similar thing for my bank statements. I logged into my bank account and I got my bank statements or my checking account statements for the last 5 years. It was actually a little bit of a pain because I had to download all the documents for every single month for the last 5 years and then combine all of that into one single PDF using one of the online tools. So basically, I combined all these documents and I got 2 PDFs, one for my combined bank statements for the last 5 years and one for my combined notice of assessment for the last 5 years. So if you go back to the application page and if you select the document type, you can select your proof of residency in Canada, and then you can upload your document, the 2 documents that we just spoke about. So these are mainly the 2 documents that you need to submit. But if your situation is different, for example, if you spend time outside of Canada working for a Canadian employer or for the government of Canada, or if you were accompanying a Canadian citizen outside of Canada and they were working for an employer. So if you fall under any of those complicated scenarios, then you can actually follow this guide and see what all supporting documents you need to include. Now, moving on in this list, you also need to submit a copy of your primary identity document. So in my case, I submitted my passport. So since I'm a citizen of India, I uploaded my Indian passport in digital format, in a PDF format. And this document included the document type and number, issue and expiry date, my name, my photograph, and my date of birth. And the next document that you need to include is your PR card, your existing PR card. Since you're submitting an application for renewing your PR card, you need to submit a copy of your current PR card with this application. And then there are some additional instructions, and you can read through these if they are applicable to you. But in my case, they were not, and in most people's cases, they will not be applicable. Now, let's go back to this page where you need to upload all these documents that we've just talked about. So if you click on this drop down over here, you'll see a list of all the possible documents that you can submit. Out of all these, you need to submit your passport or your primary ID document. So make sure to click on that one and then upload your passport or your primary ID document. And if you're submitting a passport, make sure to include the front and the back of your passport along with every single page that has any stamps on it, because that might be required by the government. The next document that you need to upload is your PR card. So make sure to upload both the front and the back of your PR card, combine them into one single PDF and then upload. The next thing is your proof of residency that we talked about. Similarly, if any of these other documents are also applicable to you, then make sure to submit those as well. And if there's anything that you want to explain to the government about your situation, about your application, then make sure to include a letter of explanation. In my case, I did not include that letter, but in your case, if you think that there is anything that the IRCC should know about your application or about your situation, then make sure to include a proper letter of explanation as well. Another quick note here is that since you need to submit 2 copies or 2 documents that prove your residency in Canada, it's possible that this thing might not allow you to upload 2 documents of the same document type. So what I did in my case was that I uploaded one document, let's say my bank statements, as proof of residency in Canada, and then I selected the other category for my CRA notice of assessment for the last 5 years and uploaded it under that category. Now moving on to the next section, which is proof of payment. You have to submit your PR card renewal fee before actually submitting your application. So what you need to do is click on this online payment button and it'll take you to this page. And then if you scroll down, you'll see that there's this option number 2, choose your fees from a list. You can just select permanent resident cards and travel documents and then click on continue. And on this page, just select one permanent resident card because that's what you're applying for. In case you're applying for a PRTD, then you can select this one. But for most people, you don't have to apply for a PRTD. So just leave that as it is. And then you need to click on this login and pay button. Make sure that this is not a receipt. You have not paid yet, so don't attach this document. Just go to login and pay, and then on this page you will have to create a new account with an email address and password, and then you can actually log in, pay your fees online, and you'll also get some payment history. So in this case, if you don't already have an account, make sure to click on register and register your account. Otherwise, if you already have an account, then just enter your email address and password and then click on login. So once you log in, you'll be taken to this page once again. You can click on I'm human and then confirm your payment, and then you'll have to enter your credit card details and then finally pay your fee. And once your fee is paid, you can actually go to the view all receipts section, and then over here you'll be able to see your receipts. For example, I paid $50 back in August 2024 for renewing my PR card, and this is basically my receipt. So if I click on get receipt, I'll be taken to this page, and then what I need to do is click on view/print and download the receipt of your fee payment. So once you've downloaded your fee receipt, go back to your application page and then click on upload and upload that PDF file for your proof of payment. Alright, so just to summarize, at this point you filled out your application form, you have uploaded your pictures, the front and back of your picture, you have uploaded all the supporting documents including your proof of residency obligation in the past 5 years, which was bank statements and CRA notice of assessment for the last 5 years. You've also uploaded your PR card, your front and back of your current PR card. You've also uploaded your primary document, which is the passport, and you've also uploaded your proof of fee payment or your fee receipt. The only thing remaining at this point is uploading the final checklist. So now let's go back to the checklist to make sure that we're not missing anything, and then we should be ready to submit our application. So going back to the checklist page, this is actually where you can download your checklist from. Make sure that you download this and you have Adobe Acrobat Reader version 10 or higher, because other versions of Adobe Acrobat or even like the Google Chrome version of Adobe Acrobat or the PDF Reader is not able to open this checklist document. And once you open the checklist, it'll actually look like this. And on this page, you can see that there are a few things that I've tick marked. These are basically from my personal checklist. And let's quickly go over all these things just to make sure that we're not forgetting anything. So the first one is application for permanent resident card. Yes, we've actually added that application form. We've submitted that, IMM 5444. Second one is proof showing that you meet the residency obligation in the last 5 years. Yes, we did go to Appendix 5 and we followed the instruction guide and we got a list of all those documents. Next one is the fee. Yes, we've included a fee of receipt showing the amount paid, which is $50. And then we also need to check this box, because the document checklist, we will be uploading this after we go through this whole form. The next part over here is any of these additional supporting documents. None of these were actually applicable to me, but if they were applicable to you, then make sure to include these as well and then check them accordingly. The next section is about the photos. Yes, we did submit the photos. We did submit one copy of our primary document, which was the passport, based on the instruction guide. Yes. Next part is also yes. We included the PR card, the front and back of our PR card, since we were applying for a renewal of our PR card. And then this additional form section is also not applicable, so I'm not checking these. We are not applying for a PRTD, so we won't be checking this. And everything else looks good. Since we are submitting an application online, so we don't need to do anything. In case you're submitting a paper application for some reason, then you can actually follow these instructions over here. So once you've checkmarked all the appropriate items in this document, then you can just click on save and save this PDF. And then all you need to do is go back to your application form section, and under the document checklist category, upload your completed document checklist. Make sure that you're actually saving the checklist with all the correct check marks before uploading it over here. All right, so we're actually at the very end of our application process. So on this page, make sure to read through every single point mentioned over here about consent and declaration, and check all these items over here. And then you just need to fill out these final details. So instead of your signature, just enter your first name and last name, today's date, the city that you're in currently, your province, and your country. Yeah, since starting this application, since you've not left Canada or you're not out of Canada, so just select no and then complete and return to application. Alright, so at this point, if you've already uploaded all the required documents and filled out all the application forms and also submitted the declaration, then this submit your application button should become enabled for you, and you should be able to click it and follow through the process. But in my case, it's actually grayed out since I've not uploaded all those documents, so I cannot proceed with this application process. But in your case, you should be able to move ahead and submit your PR card renewal application. So hopefully you were able to get some idea on how to submit your PR card renewal application for Canada. And as I said earlier, I followed all these steps and I was able to get my PR card renewed successfully. So make sure to go through this guide, and if you have any questions, then let me know in the comments below. I'll try to answer them the best I can. So ideally your application will get processed within the time frame that they've mentioned. I think it was 33 days at the beginning of this application. So depending on when you're submitting your application, whatever the processing time is at that point, you can expect to hear back from the IRCC within that time. And you can also go to your PR card portal to just see the status of your application. For me, the application status actually never got updated since I submitted my applications. Even till date, the application status is still submitted. So even though it says 33 days, I got it in like 20 days. And there was no notification from IRCC to me other than the mail itself. So one thing I would suggest you is to just make sure to keep checking your mailbox, because your new PR card can arrive in mail at any point and you might not get any other notification for that. With that being said, I hope you guys found this video to be useful. If you did, then please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as I said earlier, I post a lot of videos about working in Canada. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and also follow me on Instagram at Singla119, because I post a lot of useful content over there as well. With that being said, if you have any questions, then let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.